Right. Welcome everyone. Hello. Welcome to our episode 3 of Raising Happy and Healthy Kids. So I'm Ola Zazinska. I am a family nutrition specialist specializing in picky eating. And this month I have pleasure interviewing Sarah Fisher. Hi, Sarah. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much it's a pleasure to have you here. So today we are going to talk about why bribery and rewards, why it doesn't really work the way obviously we want it to work. So can you please tell us more about yourself, about what your work, what you actually do?
Yeah, of course. So as Ola said, I'm Sarah Fisher and I'm a parent coach. And so I work with parents who are struggling with their child's behaviour. So that could be a 2-year-old who's a little bit determined and knows exactly what they want.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I've got.
Or it could be, a 15, 16-year-old going through the teenage years and just really, really struggling with all the changes that happen when they're that age and working out who they are and all of those types of things. And I use an approach that's based on the principles of something called non-violent resistance, which is a bit wordy, but it really is based in building relationships with our kids and respectful relationships with our kids and working with them so that they grow up to be resilient, confident, caring young people. And we do that in a way that really does help them understand themselves and just builds a really strong connection. So we all know there's lots of teenagers around at the moment with mental health issues and all of those types of things, and we want to help them to feel good about themselves, really, and help. So I help families for whatever reason they're struggling. And some have got trauma backgrounds, or some are just as parents are finding life tricky and struggling with their kids.
Yeah, so needed. It's so needed, isn't it? It must be busy. I can believe. Yes.
Yeah. I always think it's bad that I'm busy. I mean, I feel bad that I'm needed, but at the same time, actually, for me, I know when I was struggling as a parent, so I'm an adoptive mum, when I was struggling, asking for help, I felt like a failure. I felt like I should be able to do it. And there wasn't really anybody who understood what I was going through, who was there to help. So hopefully I'm that person for parents. As I've been there, I've done it, and I know how hard it is to say, help, I can't do this.
Absolutely, yeah, of course. Okay, so today we're going to talk about our favorite topic, because that's what you mentioned. That's Sarah's favorite topic, bribery and rewards. And that's my favorite topic in terms of eating, because that's what I talk most of the time about eating. And so I can't really, I keep telling all the time, it's just not a really good, it's a very common, in fact, very common parental practice, but it's not the really one you want to follow. It's not the one you want to use. And there are different options, and that's why we have you here, so you can tell us. Because I don't want to talk about eating today. It's about, just to see from a different perspective.
No, absolutely.
From like a parent coach. So why? So what would you say, why it doesn't work? Why using bribery in rewards, why it doesn't really work?
Yeah, okay. So I think many of us as parents were brought up with bribery and rewards.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's a very instinctive thing for us as parents to do. And that kind of, it worked for us, so it must be okay for our kids. In actual fact, it's not the best thing, because what it's doing, it works differently for different children. So for some children, they will do that thing only for the reward.
Yeah.
So it's purely an extrinsic reason for doing it. I'm going to get I was going to say bar of chocolate, but I'm going to try and avoid food. So I'm going to get some Lego at the end of it. So I will only do such and such because I'm going to get something at the end of it. And the problem with that, of course, is you end up with kids who will only do stuff for a reward.
For that, yeah.
And when they're 2, their reward might only cost you 50p. When they're 15, their reward is more likely to cost you 70 or 80 pounds.
Oh yeah.
And so if everything is reward based, your child is only ever doing something for an external reward, rather than the feeling you get when you choose to do something internally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And we know that there are times when we just have to do something, even if you don't really want to do it. If you only ever do something because there's a positive reward, you're going to miss out on stuff, and you're not going to want to do certain things.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is that sometimes we do one-off rewards or bribery. You know, if you come to the shops with me now, I'll buy you your trainers or whatever when we're there, just because we want to get them there, and it keeps them quiet, and it stops any meltdowns, and it makes it easier in the moment for the parent. But what that does in that situation is every time you go to the shops, they're going to be like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll refuse to go. I'll kick off a little bit. Whoa, I'll get my new trainers. I'll get my new jumper or whatever.
That's it.
And you get into that cycle.
Yeah.
The other way parents tend to use rewards is reward charts. Oh, they're my big bugbear. I'm not a fan of reward charts. The reason being, lots of children, particularly those with low self-esteem, will make sure they don't achieve it because they don't feel they deserve it. And, you know, we know as adults, there will be lots of us who self-sabotage for various reasons. But for whatever it is, you will do something that means you don't achieve whatever it is you're aiming to achieve. And our kids are exactly the same. So if you do a reward chart over, I don't know, 30 days, and the reward is something at the end that they really want, I don't know, a game for their Xbox, for example.
Or
it's something big, but they will make sure they don't achieve it because they don't feel they deserve it. And then, of course, what they're doing is, I don't know, they might do 10 days and get their stickers every day, and then they just can't do it, or they don't think they deserve it. Then they failed. So then there's no point in carrying on with the reward chart because they're not going to get their reward anyway. And what that does is proves to them in their own mind they're not good enough.
Right.
So it becomes a really vicious circle in terms of their own self-belief and self-esteem, because they really want the thing at the end, but they don't think they deserve it. So they do something to make sure they don't get it, which proves to themselves they don't deserve it. And then kind of they're like, well, I don't deserve it, so I won't get it. And then each time the parent goes, oh, we'll try a new reward chart, we'll try something different, it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for the child that they never get because they don't deserve it. And actually what we're doing with that is having a really negative impact on the child's self-esteem. What we're trying to do is change behaviour, but it's a forced way of doing it. It's not working with the child to change it in a way that actually they want to change it and they understand and they move forward.
So we actually, when parents use rewards and bribery, it's something we are telling them something completely different than we want to achieve. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, when we're bribing them to do something, they're going to turn it around on us at some point because we are our children's role models. So
it's
when
going to come back to us.
Do that, I'll give you that. Our kids will turn it around. Well, I'll do that if you do that. You know, and it's going to come around and bite us on the bum at some point in time. Once they get to certainly those early teenage years, they're quite canny, and they pick up, even younger children will pick things up like that really quickly. And you're kind of like, oh, hold on, that hasn't worked very well, has it? You know, or I'll only do it if you give me this. And you kind of think, oh, you know.
I know. Absolutely. I take out my room if you give me a tenner.
Absolutely. You know, I'll go to the shops for you if you give me. And I'm like, hold on a minute, this is costing me quite a lot of money. There's a scam going on here. And I think we do it because many of us were brought up with that bribery and rewards approach. So it feels normal, and it's really hard to say, particularly if you've got grandparents around who are involved, to say, actually, I don't want a parent like that because I don't think it's right. It's a really hard conversation to have because you're saying to your parents, you didn't parent me in the right way. And that's not what I'm saying. And that's not what we're saying. We're just saying, actually, as parents, we want to do it slightly differently.
Because, of course, I mean, it's always done with a good intention. Because when parents do it, it's always good intention, because they want their children, to do something. So it's important to kind of acknowledge that it's always done, we understand, with a good intention. However, it's not doing the job done. It's not really it's kind of like creating the very problem we're trying to avoid.
And they're going to grow up thinking that every time they do something, they get a reward. And for the best will in the world, we both know that just isn't life. You know, you don't, every time you do something because you've been told to, someone doesn't go, oh, here you go, here's a prize. Do you know what I mean? That's not how life works, unfortunately. It would be lovely if it did, but that's not how life works. And because they become used to doing things purely for the external reward, internally, they're not bothered. And it does have huge impacts on self-esteem, but also motivation, because they haven't got, if there's no reward or reason for them to do something, they're not motivated to do it. So why should they bother?
Of course, yeah. So let's maybe, if you can tell us more about how you're using this approach, this, common practices, how this can influence children. You mentioned about low self-esteem, and how else? How it can affect them?
It can, I think it's different ways depending on the child's background as well, and their own kind of learning needs, if they've got any of those kind of things. Obviously that can all impact on how they see it, but it can actually put the child in some ways a position where they don't feel totally safe and comfortable, because they realize the parent is not totally in control. And as children, we all want our children to feel safe and comfortable. That's what we all want, isn't it? You're safe, comfortable, happy, those kind of things. If a child doesn't feel that their parent is in control, they get anxious, because they want their parent to be in control, because that's what we're there for. We're there to keep our children safe. When their anxiety rises, often their controlling behaviour rises as well. So they become more controlling because they feel the need to control the situation more. So I'm not going to do this unless you give me that. And it becomes controlling. And the parent then goes, oh, wow, no, can't do that. Oh my God. They then either give in to the child, so they start feeling worse about themselves, which has a negative impact again on the relationship with the child, or they start clashing and having arguments. No, I'm not doing that, and they push back, and you end up with that kind of clashing mentality. And again, that's not good for the child's self-esteem and self-belief either. Absolutely. Because they're kind of thinking, well, hold on, what's going on here? Why are we arguing? And it's very hard. And I think children will also learn how to get what they want by how we as parents behave. So if they learn, oh, hold on a minute, if I refuse to do X, mum offers me Y, thank you very much, I get a reward. They learn that behaviour.
Oh yeah.
Very, very quickly. And so it becomes a learned behaviour after a while. And actually that can then go into school, for example, where they want something from the teacher, and they will start in some ways bullying, because they will push and say, no, I'm not doing that until you give me that.
Yeah.
And of course that impacts all areas of life. And whereas, some people might go, oh, aren't they sweet? They're quite determined. They know what they want. And arguably, yeah, they do. They're very clear. They know what they want and they know how to get it. And that's an amazing skill, But also it can cause problems because they can look very controlling. They can look very aggressive. They can look, one parent described me as looking like a bully.
Right.
Because they'll only do stuff in that kind of bullying way. And I think that's not good for the child's self-esteem. And we know that often children who are behaving like that have got very, very low self-confidence and self-esteem. And they don't feel loved and they don't feel cherished. And that impacts on resilience, their ability to cope with stressful situations, their ability to problem solve, all of those things, all of their development is really impacted when we're using that kind of bribery rewards system. And it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But then if you look at the millennials now, that the 20-something, a lot of them believe that they should get something for nothing, because they've been brought up with parents going, yeah, whatever, have whatever you like, have whatever you like, have whatever you like. And it's a bit like, my son ordered something from Amazon just before Christmas that wasn't from Amazon, it was from somewhere else, and because Amazon comes the next day, he assumed it would turn up the next day. And I was like, well, what's their postage policy? And he was like, well, it'll be next day. And I was like, no, you live in a world where everything comes instantaneously. You have to accept sometimes it doesn't. And it's exactly the same with rewards. They're used to something so that it just becomes their automatic. And they don't think about, actually, sometimes you do things just because it's a nice thing to do, not for a reward. Or you just have to do it, like eat your vegetables, she says. If only. And it's not for a reward, it's because it makes you feel good inside. You're doing it because it makes you feel good, as opposed to something you're getting externally.
And with their kids, we understand that they're kids, but when they grow up and then the adults, life will become very difficult for them.
Absolutely. And that's why we want them to have that confidence in themselves, that they know that they are doing things for the right reasons, that they have the confidence to say, sometimes say, no, actually, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. because you know, it's really important that we teach our kids to say no as well as to say yes, but understand that sometimes they just have to do something, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And get that balance, because otherwise they do grow up as entitled children who think they should get everything they want, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is if they can never think in a different way. You know, and it's going to make it very difficult for them as they grow up.
Absolutely. So what would you tell parents, like for example, obviously, because it's so common, it's very, as I mentioned, very common pattern practices. So when they want to stop using, you know, bribery and rewards, what would you, how should they communicate with their children? Obviously they've been doing it for a while. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So and this is
and they want to stop.
Yeah, no, and some parents want to stop, but actually the fear of what will happen when they do stops them from stopping, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, no, well, how am I going to get my child to go somewhere, because I always bribe them with something, you know, even if it's the iPad or my phone to get them in the car or whatever it is.
Yeah, they feel like there's no way they would do something without, you know, getting whatever.
Yeah, you know, here's my phone, come and get in the car. Do you know what I mean? We've got a journey, we've got to go something. And often it's the fear that the parents have first, so we have to get over that fear. Be really clear about what it is they're going to do, so have a plan in place and then follow through, and be prepared for the child to push back.
Of course, because they will, because that's what they've been used to, getting what they you know, what they want, so they will.
Absolutely. And Jerry, change is hard for all of us, isn't it? Let alone for a child who goes, well, hold on a minute, this is normally why I get to play on this or do that, so that's what I'm going to have. So then it is about the parents saying, Joe, what, I'm going to really hold my line here, I'm going to stay really, really calm, and I'm going to hold my line. And sometimes it's about doing something different. So for example, let's take the example of needing to go out for a car journey, and normally you would bribe them with an iPad or phone to get them into the car. We would do something different to trick their brains to leaving the house without thinking, where's the phone, iPad, whatever it is. And that might be that we just start, I don't know, singing really sillily, and we dance out to the car. It's something the children aren't expecting. So that tricks their brains from going, this is what I normally do, to, oh, we're doing this, oh, isn't this fun, oh, I didn't even realise. And it's something really, really silly, but it can just be that thing that tricks them out of it. And then they're in the car and you're chatting and you've put their, I don't know, favourite music on or whatever, and they haven't registered that they're in the car. And obviously that's much easier with younger ones. Teenagers are going to be a little bit more wise to this one.
I can imagine.
Younger ones, it's easier to kind of trick them into doing things differently.
And to distract them.
To distract them. And I don't mean trick in a horrible way. I mean kind of, as in, you know, it's distraction, and it's about also building that connection. And one of the things I use a lot is relational gestures. So they're like rewards, but the child doesn't have to work towards it, and they don't know they're coming. So for example, if they've had a really good day at school, instead of in the morning saying, you know, if you're really good at school today, you can have, I don't know, your favourite dinner tonight, you wouldn't say anything. And then at dinner, if they've been really good, or even if they haven't, you just put their favourite dinner on the table, and you don't make a thing of it. You don't go, wow, look, we've got your favourite dinner tonight, isn't this amazing? Because by the time it gets to dinner, they're going to have told you that's not what they want, or they've been it before, or they'll have done something to prove they don't deserve it or whatever, and you just give it to them. So it's a way of saying, I love you lots, whatever's going on, I really, really love you. And you don't have to work towards the reward. This is just because I love you. And when we start doing things like that, it starts to change the relationship and the way the relationship works. And of course, it's not an overnight magic wand. But it just starts to change that connection. And when we start doing things like that and start managing situations differently, slowly, it's not about changing everything at the same time, because that's too much for the parents as much as too much for the child. We see that the children will just slowly start to change and go places. So I know, for example, with my son, walking anywhere was like an absolute no-no. So we've got a local shop that's 5 minutes walk, if that, down the road, and some days trying to get him out of the house to walk there, oh my god, you'd think I'd asked him to walk to the moon. I was just like, seriously, it's like a 5-minute walk, and it could take us like, oh god, easily half an hour to get out of the house, easily, if not longer. And I would stand my ground, and you know, there were times I used to get so angry and I'd be shouting and I'd be like, this is nuts. But actually I always stood my ground, and now I'm really calm. I'm like, nope, we're walking. You know, it's a 5-minute walk, and most of the time now he's like, you're right, mum, come on then, because he knows I'm not going to give in. So actually I stood my ground through all of those times when he was just like, I'll only go if, you know, if we drive. I'm like, it's 2 minutes in a car. Or I'll only go if, you know, you buy me a huge bar of chocolate or a big bottle of Coke or whatever. And it was always those, I'll only do it if. And I thought, you're bribing me now. Actually, the tables are turned. So he was bribing me.
They're so smart.
Because they're really bright, smart kids. And that was, for me, that was a bit of a wake-up call to actually, I've been doing that, because the way you've learned that is from me. And when I stopped doing it and saying, no, we're walking, it doesn't matter what you say, we're walking. Yeah, he still has his moments. You know, I've got a teenager. Sometimes he's like,
of course,
you know, it's dark, I can't go else, it's too cold, whatever it is. And I'm like, well, we're walking. You know, if you want anything, he's like, well, you buy it for me. No, if you want anything, you've got to walk with me.
Yeah.
And he does. And then, you know, we have a bit of a laugh and a joke, and I usually do some sort of silly walk, or I'll do something just to, you know, break the ice and break the tension a little bit, act a bit of a prat, and he's absolutely fine. But it's taken me to believe that I can change how I'm doing it. And I think it's for us as parents to believe in ourselves, because often we don't, and we think, I can't change this. We get so stuck in a way of doing things. The fear for us of changing it is huge, and actually that's the block.
Yeah, of course. If you want to get different results, you need to make a change. Absolutely,
and it doesn't. I mean, that's in all areas of life, isn't it? It doesn't matter what area of life that is in.
And, exactly.
You know, we're not trying to force the child to change, because that won't work. In the same way, I can't force you to change. But if I change the way I do things and the way I interact with you, over time, you will naturally change the way you interact with me. And that's what we're doing as parents. We're saying, actually, I'm changing the way I'm doing this. And yes, it's going to take a bit of time for you to get used to it. And yes, you're possibly going to push back, because nobody likes change and we want to keep things going. But over time, when parents are as consistent as they can be and persist with it, they'll get there. And it's not about being perfect. You know, I've had the odd day when I've gone, actually, it's a bit wet and manky out there, let's jump in the car. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, fine, I'm doing it. And other days I'm like, no, we're not doing it this way. And I think it's not about being perfect, because as parents, you know, there are times still now where I'll go, if you come with me, I'll grab you this. And I still use a bit of bribery sometimes, because I'm human and it works.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. At least short term it does. Yeah.
And Joe, that's the really big thing for me, and the thing that so many parents tell me. If we want to change behaviour in the longer term, we need longer term solutions. And bribery and rewards are short term solutions. In the same way that, you know, the naughty step is a short term solution for changing negative behaviour, bribery and rewards are short term solutions. So if you are happy as a parent with what is happening at the moment, and a constant circle of repeating the same behaviours, keep going with bribery and rewards. If you are thinking, do you know what, I really want to change this, then you need to stop them. And do, you know, work with them to get that longer term solution, because otherwise nothing's going to change.
Absolutely.
You know? And it can change. I've changed it here, and I've got hundreds of thousands of parents who are changing it, and they're doing it differently. And it is hard, because we all hate change. But you know, it's time to change, isn't it? You know.
Absolutely. That's exactly. That's what I keep, you know, telling my parents as well. It's just not really, you know, there are different solutions we can, and they're not so. That's what we as parents fear, as you said at the beginning, is just to make this step, just to decide whether, like, no, I'm doing something differently this time, because
I think it is really hard, but I think we live in a really different society than the one, certainly the one I grew up in, and I'm sure, you know, you're the same, and I just think society has changed so much that the way we parented isn't necessarily right for the 21st century. And I just think it's not about saying I wasn't parented well, but if we look at how my parents were parented, and your parents and our grandparents were parented, it's totally different. We've gone from that, you know, children must be seen and not heard, to listening to them, to engaging with them, to understanding them, to helping them understand their emotions. And being a society, hopefully, that talks about emotions.
That's absolutely.
We don't at the moment, and bribery and rewards is about not talking and not connecting. You know, you'll do as I say, and you'll just do it now.
And just do it now, You know,
and that's not healthy.
It's not, I'll pay you for it, or I'll do my best, so you do it.
I'm tired, just do it.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
It doesn't work, you know, it really doesn't work. And I've certainly seen from myself, and you know, loads of parents have reported this, that when they change, they see huge shifts in their child's behaviour, in the connection they have with their child, their engagement with their child, and actually their child's own happiness. You know, genuine, deep inner happiness.
Genuine,
and
lovely.
And I think those are the things that, you know, as parents, we want happy kids.
Oh, yeah.
That's all we want. We want happy, confident, you know, kids who want to be here and, you know, love life. And if we can change how we're parenting them to help them feel that, then that's amazing.
Then that's, that's really beautiful. I'll double check if we have any questions, because we might do. I didn't check it right. Let's see. I'll check on my phone. I hope you're actually live.
There's always a little bit of a delay on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
There's always a bit of delay.
Right, that's let me see. We do have. Hello guys. Yes, we've got questions. We are. Oh, I need to. I need to kind of like, right. I just want to see the. Okay, so what about removing something if they are not showing wanted behaviors or disrespectful, etc.?
Okay.
Samantha's asking.
Another one of my hot topics.
Samantha is asking, The
other thing we know from research over the last sort of 50 years or so is that if we impose a consequence that's not related to the situation, it doesn't change behaviour and it has a negative impact on the child's self-belief. So, for example, if they are, trying to think of an example, say watching TV and they're, I don't know, shouting, or they're being unkind to their brother while they're watching it or something like that, and you say, okay, because you've, I don't know, been really unkind when you're watching the telly, you're not allowed to play with your Lego, for example. So the two aren't related. That doesn't help the child understand themselves or change their behaviour. If you said, actually, when you are watching, I don't know, My Little Pony on the telly, you get really upset and wound up, so we're not going to watch that for a little bit, that's directly related.
Right.
So the child sees the consequences being fair and you're helping them develop. Whereas if we do something that's not, they see it as being unfair and it doesn't make any difference. So it's a bit like putting them on the naughty step. If they, I don't know, being disrespectful, going, that's it, you're on the naughty step. What they do is they sit on the naughty step and they do their 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and they sit there and they go, da, 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 yeah, whatever, I'm sitting on the naughty step. They go, yeah, sorry, mum, didn't mean to do it, and off they go. They haven't actually thought about what caused that behaviour, how they were feeling, or really being sorry, because it's easy to sometimes say the words I'm sorry and just know that that gets you off the hook.
Yeah.
Whereas what we do is try and make sure that any consequence is directly related to what's happened, and then talk to them afterwards about what happened in the moment. So when everything's calm, when you've calmed down as the parent and you're not like, like that, and they calm down, talk to them, you know, I'm wondering what was happening earlier. I could see you getting really upset and being unkind to your sister or whatever. You know, I'm wondering, you know, had she frustrated you? Had she annoyed you?
Yeah.
How could we do it differently? That way they learn and we see changes in behaviour over time. So again, it's the long game. It's like not doing rewards and bribery. It's the long game, but it changes behaviour. So yes, a naughty step, for example, that kind of idea solves it immediately, but it doesn't change the behaviour in the long term. And I was working with a CAMS team last year and they were saying, no, that's what we do. But they also acknowledge they see the behaviours continue. And so actually it's not working.
Yeah.
Whereas when we change and we do connected consequences, then we see behaviour change.
Then we see, Oh,
and that's what we want.
Absolutely. Right, great. Okay, Trina's asking, my son attends a profoundly specialist school. I managed to get the traffic light system stopped in the mainstream for him. But this school are using a leaf system I've lost. But this school are using leave system where he attends a leave for good behavior up to 5 a day. They aren't removed and are easily achievable, but if he doesn't achieve all 5, he loses some of his choosing time at the end of the day. He's responding well and doesn't appear affected by it, but it makes me uncomfortable to do. Do you think I should change them, challenge them further and try and get it removed for him?
That's a really interesting one, because effectively what they're saying, if I've understood correctly, is if you're not good enough, you don't get as much free time.
It kind of was what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, who defines what's not good enough?
Yeah.
And also, every child's abilities and what they can achieve are different, and they'll be different on different days. So, for example, you could have, we as adults, we have off days where we're just not feeling great. Therefore, why should we be penalised for not achieving 5 leaves because actually we're just not on form that day? And of course, once you know you can't achieve your 5, there's no inclination to carry on and even make an effort because, well, I haven't got it anyway. So my thought is to talk to the school and say, look, this is my concerns around it.
Yeah.
And see what they say. If you don't think it's having any impact on your son at all, there's a bit of me that says I'd be surprised if he's not impacted at all. It may be that maybe he doesn't understand it, so he may not have the intelligence to realise what he's lost. Some children don't realise what they've lost because the way that people do it, they don't really know what they've lost. So that's different. Or it may be he just doesn't feel he deserves it anyway, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, because Trina's saying that he's responding well and doesn't appear affected, but it makes her more uncomfortable. Which I understand. Which is absolutely understandable.
And I've got that little bit of uncomfortable feeling. I would talk to the school, ask them for, and they might say, here's the research that proves this works, and blah 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 blah, and you might go, oh, okay, actually, that's great. And it might be, if he's only just changed schools in September, that by Easter he's achieving it every day. And they say this is really normal with new kids. We know it takes them 2 or 3 terms to get into the swing of it. So I would go and have that conversation with the school in a really calm, non-confrontational, I just want to understand this a bit more kind of a way. Don't go in guns blazing, because that never works.
Right. Linda, so we just hold our ground if we have that child that won't walk. My son is happy to walk. My daughter thinks her legs will fall off if I make her walk. The stress of trying to get out the door. I understand.
I
I've got 2-year-old.
Now, obviously, on the assumption that your child hasn't got a medical condition that actually genuinely, I'm assuming her legs wouldn't fall off if she walks. That's slightly extreme. But on the assumption they haven't got a genuine medical condition or a reason why actually walking is painful, I would, just hold your ground a little bit. And even if the first time she just walks to the end of the driveway, and then, for example, if they're really young, then they're put in their pushchair or they're carried, little bits. I think it's also really important to decide where your boundaries are. So it may be at the moment, this isn't something you push, but you push something else. And you say, actually, I'm not going to worry about this one because this is just too stressful for me at the moment. I'm going to focus on this little change here. Like, I don't know, when she's in the playground, getting her to walk from the car to the playground, because she loves doing that because she loves playing in the playground. And just, pick a little tiny bit and start building it from that. Other people go, no, actually, this is my big thing that I really, really need to change. And that's where all my energy is going. So, basically stand your ground if you're comfortable standing your ground, and know that the first few times it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I understand that one, because it just sounds like my daughter. Like, sometimes she's, most of the time she can happily walk to Co-op, which is like 20 minutes from home, and come back. That's all, and she's 2.5 now, but she wouldn't go to a playground, which is just around the corner.
And the other thing is, sometimes we're full of beans and we've got loads of energy and we're happy to go for a walk. Other times we're not. And I also have a way of saying, actually, Mum, I'm really tired today because I had a really busy day at nursery, and walking that far is just too much for my little legs. So they show it. And I think, often their behaviour is a way of them communicating something, and we've got to work out what it is. Is it just them being sort of pig-headed, for want of a better word, and determined they're not going to do it, because actually I get carried if I behave like this, so that's quite nice, thank you very much? Or is it them going, I'm just too tired today and I can't do it?
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think decide what you're going to be firm about and then stick with that. So pick one, maybe two things and go, right, that's where I'm starting. Don't put boundaries in left, right and centre to start with, because you won't remember and your kids won't remember, and it will just get, it'll be hideous.
Yeah.
Pick one thing and go, right, that's what I'm focusing on to start with. Once that is embedded, then it's the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Consequences. Samantha, consequences to being outright rude and answering back continually, refusing to communicate why they were so aggressive.
Okay, it depends a little bit on the age of them and what else you've got going on. I would, sometimes they might not know why they're so aggressive, particularly teenagers, example, with hormones. They may not know why they're just being in a bad mood. So if you're pushing them to give an answer and they don't know, they don't know.
Right.
If you keep pushing them, they may not want to tell you, and you're their parent. They're not going to want to tell you everything that happens in their life. That's part of, we all remember being a kid and not wanting to tell our parents everything.
Exactly.
Also, try not to use the word why. I know this sounds a bit crazy, but it's a really aggressive word. Why don't you do that? It automatically goes, I don't know why I didn't do it. I just didn't do it. I don't know what's going on. And if they don't know and they're reacting like that, there's no point in pushing, because you're just going to get them more wound up. You're more likely to get more aggressive response, and you're going to get wound up. So sometimes it's just saying, I can see you're really angry at the moment. I can see you're really angry. I'm going to leave you to it. I'll come back later on. And not push. If a teenager's just grunting is normal. Grunting is normal communicative behavior. Not wanting to communicate is normal communication for a teenager. They don't always want to. If they're younger, don't forget their hormones kick in earlier and earlier and earlier now. So that might be it. They might be tired. There might be something happening at school that they just don't know how to tell you. Think about your tone as the parent as well. So I know sometimes I can sound like a right old grumpy what's it. And actually, it's not surprising then I get a load of this back, because that's kind of how I'm talking. So we need to think about our own tones as well. The other thing is making sure we're hearing what the child is saying.
Yeah.
So sometimes we actually need to acknowledge what they're saying, even if it's, I hate you. That's how they're feeling in the moment. And if we say, you mustn't say that, that's not a nice thing to say, we're basically saying your feelings are irrelevant, go away.
Yeah.
And if we say, I'm really sorry you hate me, they go, what? Because we're acknowledging how they feel. And I know how hard it is when your child is just going for you. I 100% understand that, and my son's the same height as me now, and he's a rugby prop, so he's not small. And I'm like, we're had a bad day, mate. And he's just like, because I know underneath that's not him, that's how he's expressing how he's feeling.
Exactly.
And we have to give them a bit of give and take, and just think about kind of what to do. And if it's something you want to know more about, I've got some stuff on my Facebook page which will help you kind of think about how you can decide what you're going to deal with and what you're not going to deal with. Because when we try and deal with everything, and I'm sure you're the same when you're talking to parents about food, when we try and deal with everything at the same time, it's really tough. We need to prioritize what
very overwhelming. Yeah, absolutely. You need to work in steps, more like
and if your child tells you to stop talking, just say, okay, not a problem. And then when they ask you something a few minutes later, you go, and they're pretty quick at telling you it's okay for you to talk, usually. The other one that works really well is if they say you're stupid, when they next ask you to drive somewhere or cook them dinner, you say, I'm really sorry, I'm stupid, so I can't drive, it wouldn't be safe. They don't say it again.
Right, great. I try to remember that one. Or age, Samantha's daughter is 8. Right. Am I right? Let me see. So am I right to stop my son playing online games as he can't stick to the limits and becomes very stressed and aggressive from playing them? It also having a very negative impact on his mental health and ability to do anything else. He's been out of education for the most of 2.5 years, and yeah, we don't know how old this.
Okay, I'm guessing he's older. Okay.
Yeah, I must be playing games, so it's pretty common.
Okay.
I find it.
Yeah, this is a topic that comes up all the time, and
very common, isn't it?
Yeah, and my son is a huge gamer. He absolutely loves gaming. I can't stand it, and we have had battles over it over the last 3 or 4 years. And I think if it is having such a negative impact, then yes, you probably need to certainly think about what games they're playing. So, assess which games. Are there certain games that are causing issues and others not? So, for example, Fortnite's well known for winding a lot of kids up, and it might be actually you ban Fortnite, but you allow, I don't know, Minecraft, for example, which they're more likely to cope with. My worry always about stopping them playing full stop is that we're not actually helping them manage the emotions of playing the games. We're just taking the trigger away. And it might be we need to take it away to start with, whilst we help them kind of balance out and realise there's a life outside of a computer. But I think it's really important that we help them manage and cope in that environment. And so I've done a lot of work with my son over the last few years, helping him. And when he was really angry, sometimes just going and sitting next to him and not saying anything, because kids can be incredibly unkind to each other when they're playing those games, or if they lose or whatever, they get so engaged in it. Sometimes just being there and sitting there and saying, it's okay, I'm here for you, makes the world of difference. But we want them to be able to cope in those environments in the long run and not totally remove it. And also, if you totally remove it, you're possibly creating a bigger issue, because then it becomes this, why won't you let me play? Yeah. And they will find ways of playing. You can put, there's a lot of stuff where you can put where the machine automatically shuts down at certain times. I don't need to now on the whole, thankfully. But I used to go in, and I recommend to parents, they go in, I don't know, say the shut-off time is 7 o'clock in the evening, but they go in at 6:30, so you've got about 30 minutes. And then you go, and possibly even have a timer so the child can see the time coming down. Because some of these games, once you start them, they're 40 minutes long, and you can't come out halfway through. Or, well, you can, but it, apparently you can't. And then go in, maybe 15 minutes and just start engaging with them. What are you playing? How's it going? Not too much to be irritating, because that's not helpful. But just start engaging and start to bring their brain out of computer world, because they're such in the zone. We need to start opening the blinkers a little bit and going, hello, there's a life outside, away from that computer. and slowly taken away by engaging with them. And it's not easy, but over time, if you stick to it and that's your kind of thing that you're working on, you can move it forward. And also talk to parents, friends, parents, if you know them, and say, look, can we agree some timings? Sometimes, they all come off at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m, whatever it is, because it's a lot easier if they all come off at the same time. Make sure the games are age appropriate, so that they're not playing games that are much older than them. And talk to them. I think sometimes we worry about talking to them about what's going on and our fears, and just talk to them, engage them, help them understand, and be able to play them with enjoyment. They're going to get angry times, because that's the nature of what they're playing, and they want to win. And I think that's okay. But when the anger and the emotions boil over to being unhealthy, that's when we need to make sure we're helping them manage those and move forward.
Okay, thank you. So, we've got another question lots of questions. I love it. From Jennifer. My 10-year-old was addicted to her phone. Now, only allow her to have it on weekends, and couldn't get her to do anything. She has accepted it and actually seems happier. Right. So, that's great. So that's great. That is great.
That's really great. What I would say, it's really interesting. Phones are a big thing, aren't they? So in our house at bedtime, phones, they have to be switched off. They have to be switched off. I switched mine off as well. And what's really interesting is when I said to my son, you're on your phone a lot, he went, Mum, you're on yours all the time. And I thought, and it was a real mirror up to me to go, actually, I am on it a lot. And sometimes I'm reading a book, or I'm listening to an audio book, but our kids don't see that.
But they don't know.
Do you know what I mean? That's all they see. And it really made me think, how much am I on this actually in front of my son, when I don't need to be necessarily? It becomes a habit as well. But absolutely great. And I think that pressure of being needing to be on it all the time. If you're not on it, it does relief for adults as well. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So that's fantastic. Well done for getting that to work.
I know. Yeah, it's just so easy to see, obviously, in our children. But then if we see this, like, oh, hold on, I'm actually doing the same. So that's where they mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or Rachel said that son is 13, the one who plays games, computer games.
Okay.
13.
Okay, yeah, so that's not uncommon. He is probably at that age playing Fortnite. He might not be, I might be wrong there, which is particularly addictive and does get them very aggressive. So maybe you take certain games away, or only have it for certain times of the day. I know that some parents will say, you know, we have to go outside for an hour, or we have to do something else that's non-techie before you're allowed back on. I've got a family that I've been working with for a few months now, and they had big tech issues, and actually parents are admitting they want them as much as the kids. So they now have 2 hours when the whole family can have tech or do whatever they want. Then they all come off and they do an hour of family time. And that might be going for a walk or playing a game or doing whatever. And then they have 2 hours of tech time, and do you know what I mean? They literally rotate during the day, and they said that's had a huge impact on the kids, and actually all of them in terms of behaviour. So it is really, really hard. Go slowly with that, and decide how you want to deal with it, and then, you know, put it in place and be really decisive that that's what you're doing.
I believe it must be a really hot topic these days.
It's a really hot topic. It's one that comes up a lot in my hub and in my free Facebook group. Always, what do I do about it?
Yeah.
And you know, we live in a tech-based world. We can't stop our kids being tech-based. That's, you know, a friend's son is 14 and is making money on YouTube, with his videos, you know, quite nice money.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on a minute, what's going on here?
I know.
But that is the world they live in. And
Exactly.
so for us to say you can't have it, I don't think is helpful. For us to say, here's how you manage it in a healthy way, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, because I'd be too controlling and too restrictive, like with everything else, to be honest. Yeah, it's just how the world is right now. I mean,
and the more you say no, the more it becomes something they want.
Yeah.
So the more of a battle you're making it.
Yeah. Right. So, is there any more questions, guys? That's really good. I love all these questions. If you have any more, yes, go. Just fire them. I think that. Thanks, Lady Samantha says. Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, brilliant! I really like it. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. It's really such a pleasure having you here. So obviously I posted you the link to your Facebook page to Connective Parent with Sarah Fisher. So how people can contact you, how can work with you, if obviously any of the mothers would, for example, if they wanted to. So what do you offer?
So I've got a Facebook page and I've got a free Facebook group, which they're welcome to come and join. And I put tips in there every day, and it's a really amazing, supportive community. There's no judgment in there. It's really, really lovely. So that's a free group they're welcome to join. In terms of getting support directly from me, there's 2 options that really. The first is my hub, which is my membership group. And they get access to me, I was going to say 24/7, not quite, because
not quite,
pretty much. And there's a whole library of hours of videos that they can watch on loads of different topics. And we've got a Facebook group where they can ask questions, and I'm in there doing things like this really once a week at least, asking any questions parents are chucking at me, kind of how do I deal with this, what about this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And again, that's a really lovely supportive community, and that's just £15 a month. And there's no ongoing commitment, so you can come and join for a month, learn everything you want, and leave if that's what you want to do, or you can come and stay for as long as you want. So that's the cheapest, and I genuinely think for most parents that's the best way.
That's the best way,
because you don't just get my help whenever you need it, you get the support of the other parents in the group. And sometimes we can feel really isolated as parents, and you know, getting that support from other parents going, oh God, I've been through that, is really, really powerful. I do work with parents on a one-to-one basis. I've got a waiting list at the moment, so I can't do anything until March. That is full. So you know, if that's what people want, I'm more than happy to, you know, I can put them on the waiting list. But I would say joining the hub is the best way. and you get access to everything the minute you join. So you get access to all of the library. You came and did a lovely session with us in December, wasn't it? All about food, and the parents were still raving about it and telling me how to get food they didn't eat before. So we have people coming like yourself and doing sessions in there as well. So it's not just me they're getting other experts like yourself, and they can watch all of the back episodes with other experts as well. Everything's recorded and in the online library, which they can access whenever they want from phone or laptop or whatever. So for me, hopefully it's really affordable for most parents.
I think absolutely, I think so,
and it gives them help literally whenever they need it. And I am up, you know, I do answer late at night, I answer in the morning, I answer whenever I can do, and give as much help and support. So all of these things, like what do I do about tech, or you know, what do I do with this, or whatever it is. And of course, as our kids grow older, we get different challenges, don't we?
That's what I was going to say, is like, absolutely. So we've got a problem, some sort of like a problem this week, and another week it's just like it's something else. It's just something, you know, different. New challenges, they come and go.
And the hub has got parents in there with little kids, with kind of 18, 19-year-olds with different needs, different backgrounds, different situations. So you really can get that mix of support. And sometimes you hear something and you go, oh God, that's a really good idea, I could adapt that to work for my child. And that's the benefit of it. So you get my advice, but you get everything from everybody else.
Great. So guys, if you would like to connect with Sarah, that's what we recommend. Yes, obviously the link to her Facebook page is already there.
And you can get everything about that.
So you get in touch with her. And oh, hold on, we've got another one. Is that okay? How do you get the that's for me, but you know what, Linda, I'll answer it myself. I'm going to reply to your comment, okay? So it's about picky eating, so that's me. That's what I do. Yes, I'm going to go back to you on this one. Okay, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here, and thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all these comments. I love getting questions and comments. So thank you so much for watching us live. Obviously you can watch the replay. It's gonna stay here. The video is gonna be here. So so you can rewatch it many times you want. And thank you so much. Have a good night, guys. And I'll see you on Thursday, because I'm going to do live on bribery and words when it comes to eating.
Ooh.
That's what we're going to talk, about it like for hours. So I just decided to separate. Okay, so have a good night, guys, and I'll see you on Thursday live at 8:30, same time as tonight, and then we can talk about bribery and rewards in terms of eating. Okay, so good night. Bye. I think I stopped it. I have, and